Good afternoon and welcome. This is Ambassador Atta Shahid at VOSA. Today we delve into the heart of a conflict that has gripped the world's attention for decades, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The recent ceasefire between Hamas and Israel has brought a pause to the violence, a moment of fragile peace in a region all too familiar with bloodshed. But as we've seen time and again, ceasefires are not cures. They are band-aids on a deep and festering wound. The underlying issues, the root causes of this conflict, remain. And so, the question arises, what now? Tonight we examine the ramifications of this latest truce. We'll analyze the immediate impacts, the humanitarian relief efforts underway, and the security concerns that linger. Most importantly, we'll explore what this ceasefire means for the future of a Palestinian state and the prospects for lasting peace in the region. The ceasefire has, at least for now, opened a critical window for humanitarian aid to reach the besieged Gaza Strip. For weeks, the people of Gaza have endured unimaginable suffering. Hospitals, overwhelmed and undersupplied, have struggled to treat the wounded. Families, huddled in fear, have faced dwindling food and water supplies. And now, with the guns silenced, aid organizations are racing against time to deliver desperately needed assistance. Trucks carrying food, medicine, and other essentials are crossing into Gaza, providing a lifeline to those who have been pushed to the brink. But the situation remains dire. The scale of destruction is immense. Homes, schools, and vital infrastructure lie in ruins. While the guns are silent, a palpable tension hangs in the air. Israel, scarred by rocket attacks, remains wary, viewing this ceasefire as a time to regroup, to reassess its security protocols. Military analysts warn that unless Hamas, which Israel and the United States consider a terrorist organization, is disarmed, the cycle of violence is likely to repeat. The potential for future conflict looms large, casting a long shadow over any talk of peace. Adding to the complexity, regional actors, including Hezbollah and Iran, continue to exert their influence, further fueling the flames of this decades-old conflict. The situation remains volatile, a tinderbox awaiting a spark. The ceasefire, however fragile, has created a space for diplomacy, a glimmer of hope in a region often defined by despair. The United States, Egypt, and Qatar have stepped in as mediators, working tirelessly to bridge the divides and find common ground. But the challenges are immense. Decades of mistrust, broken promises, and failed negotiations weigh heavily on all sides. The question remains, can this latest round of talks break the cycle of violence and deliver a lasting peace? Or will they simply serve as a temporary fix, postponing the inevitable? The international community watches with bated breath, hoping that this time dialogue will triumph over division. For years, the two-state solution, the creation of an independent Palestinian state alongside Israel, has been held up as the most viable path to peace. The United States and European nations continue to advocate for this approach, believing it offers the best hope for both Israelis and Palestinians to live in peace and security. But the reality on the ground tells a different story. The expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, deemed illegal under international law, continues to erode the possibility of a contiguous and viable Palestinian state. Security concerns, deeply ingrained in the Israeli psyche, make any withdrawal from occupied territories a difficult political proposition. The two-state solution, once a beacon of hope, now appears increasingly distant, a dream deferred. As the two-state solution seems increasingly elusive, analysts and policymakers alike are beginning to explore alternative models for peace. Some argue that a one-state solution with equal rights for all citizens, regardless of religion or ethnicity, may be the only viable path forward. This approach, while appealing to some, faces significant hurdles, not least of which is the deep-seated mistrust between the two communities. Others propose an internationally administered governance model for the West Bank and Gaza, perhaps under the auspices of the United Nations. Such a solution, while complex, could provide a framework for addressing the most pressing security and humanitarian concerns. Central to the Palestinian struggle is the quest for international recognition, for a place among the community of nations. While some countries have formally recognized Palestine as a state, broader global acceptance remains elusive. Achieving full statehood would require significant diplomatic efforts, a shift in the balance of power within international institutions, and a willingness by Israel and the United States to reconsider their long-held positions. Such a development would have profound implications for the region, potentially altering the dynamics of the conflict and paving the way for a more equitable and just future. However, the path to recognition is fraught with obstacles, a testament to the complexities of this enduring conflict. As the dust settles on this latest conflict, we stand at a critical juncture. The choice before us is stark: continue down the path of conflict and suffering, or seize this opportunity to forge a new path, one paved with dialogue, compromise, and a commitment to a shared future. The stakes could not be higher. Without a credible peace process, the cycle of violence will inevitably continue, leaving generations to inherit a legacy of bloodshed and despair. The international community must remain engaged, providing not just humanitarian aid, but also the diplomatic and political capital necessary to break the deadlock. The alternative, a future defined by endless conflict, is simply too horrific to contemplate. In conclusion, the Hamas-Israel ceasefire is a temporary pause rather than a lasting solution. While the truce has brought much-needed relief to Gaza and allowed for a resumption of diplomatic efforts, the underlying issues remain unresolved. Serious diplomatic efforts grounded in good faith and a genuine desire for peace are essential to break the cycle of violence and instability. The international community must remain engaged, pressing for a just and lasting solution that recognizes the rights and aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians. Stay informed and engaged as we continue to follow this critical issue.